Hello there, my name is Leslie Moreno, and I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Selection for the Broad Residency team. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar. The goal of this presentation is to help give you clarity about the remaining stages of the selection process. By doing this, it is our hope that this both relieves some of the anxiety and also assists you in preparing for the remaining stages. We will not cover secrets of success, but rather a description of the types of interviews and activities at second round so you can decide how to best prepare and use your time. Additionally, we know that you may have questions about the process and the program, so we hope to address those during the day as well. Let's start by talking about what happens before you join us for second round and how you will receive information related to your interview day. If you're watching this video, you're already familiar with the second round candidate portal. This site has a ton of information relating to second round. There's a checklist of the things that you need to do to prepare for the day, some information on the logistics of the day, and bios of your interviewers. There will also be a case study that you will need to read and prepare. A few of the different activities during second round will focus on this case study, so I highly recommend that you read that in advance. I also recommend going back to the checklist because it has a summary of all that you need to do to be prepared for the day. We'll also be emailing you some important information related to your interview day, so make sure you're receiving emails from us. Some of the time, these emails will be sent through Salesforce, but you may also get some through DocuSign, directly from our staff members here at the Broad Center or from our travel agent directly. You can see here that travel arrangements and a few applications and forms will be sent through email. Now let's get into what the interview day looks like. Here are the attendees that you can expect at each interview day. There will be about 20 candidates at each day, and the day includes individual interviews and group activities. Please wear either business casual or business formal attire, whichever you feel most comfortable in. On our side, there are about 20 individuals. This will be a mix of Broad Residency staff and alumni. On the next couple of slides, remember that orange designates candidates and the teal color designates staff for our alumni. Now let's talk about the activities of the day. Obviously, our goal is to assess you. Part of that assessment happens during 3 interviews. One is a behavioral, the second is a situational interview, and the last one is a fit interview. Both the behavioral and situational interviews include 2 members of our staff with 1 candidate, and the fit interview will be one-on-one. A quick way to remember the difference between behavioral and situational is that behavioral interviews are backwards looking. We're asking about your previous work experience. Most often the question begins with, give me an example of a time when. This is very similar to the first round interviews, which I'm sure that you remember. The advice that I would give you for a behavioral interview is to know your resume really well, and not just the bullet points, but the story behind the bullets. We're looking for you to share stories about your experience and clear and succinct examples of something that you accomplished that addresses your questions. Have some examples in mind to discuss, but make sure to listen to the questions. I know that it seems simple and straightforward, but you're going to be nervous and I want to cram in everything about yourself in the time that you have. This is where you may get lost in your answers and drift off on tangents. So preparation can really help you avoid these mistakes. My main advice here is to take a deep breath before you enter the room, or however you psych yourself up. Relax and be ready to engage with the interviewers and make sure you answer their questions. The next interview is situational, and this one is forward-looking. We'll give you a short scenario that is hypothetical and based on a real resident experience. For example, if you were in this situation, what would you do? Half of the scenarios you'll receive an hour before the interview starts, so you can do some prep. The second half of the scenarios you'll receive during your interview. The third type of interview is a fit interview. It's short and provides an opportunity for our team to ask outstanding questions we may have and get to know you a bit more. The group exercise will be an activity that does not require any preparation. We break the group up into smaller groups of about 6 to 8 people, and they work through an activity together. Instructions will be given when you arrive for the activity. The main purpose of the small group activity is for us to get a sense of how people interact with one another. The key here is to interact. Sometimes people who are pretty quiet struggle with this one. So if you're more of a quiet leader, you will need to figure out how to engage in this situation. These are the main types of assessment that will happen over the course of a day: the 3 interviews and a small group activity. The rest of the day is for you to fully assess this opportunity. We include a few different activities that will help you get to know our organization and what the program experience is like. There will be a panel of Broad Residency alumni where you will be in a smaller group and have a chance to listen to alumni speak and ask them questions. So come prepared with questions and ready to have an engaging session. Many of you will have talked to residents or alumni by this time, but if you have any lingering questions, be ready to ask them here. There will also be a case discussion led by our Managing Director, Krupa Desai. This gives you a sense of what our professional development sessions are like, and it's also another reason to be comfortable with the case materials and review them in advance. Another important part of the day is a Q&A session with our program team. This can be informed by the short presentation you'll see at the beginning of the day that's on what to expect from your experience in the residency and the commitment that is required. Last but not least, another great way to learn about this opportunity is to get to know your fellow candidates who have similar interests and a desire to work in education. This can really give you a sense of the cohort experience overall. In terms of the agenda for the day, each person will experience the same activities but in a different order. This slide gives you a sense of how the day is laid out. It's a really long day, but you will walk away with a better understanding of who we are and what the Broad Residency is all about. Given the activities and structure of the day, if you'd like to request a reasonable accommodation, please reach out to me directly at L for Leslie Moreno, Moreno, @broadcenter.org. So what happens after the actual interview day? About a week after your interview day, you'll learn via email if you've been selected as a finalist. A quick heads up that if you do advance to this stage, we're going to ask you for professional references, and we'll ask you to provide those pretty quickly because we conduct in-depth reference checks. Final decisions will be communicated to all finalists in early June. For candidates who are not selected as finalists, you can request feedback from our staff via email to our recruitment team. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we are really excited to meet you in person, and we wish you the best of luck.